Hi, this is Keith Pettit, Sales Engineer with SUSE, and we're going to go over how to set up Rancher on Amazon EKS using the Amazon Marketplace Rancher Setup. The Marketplace Rancher Setup will create an EC2 instance that will guide us through the EKS setup process. The end result will be Rancher running on an EKS cluster using a custom domain. The prerequisites for getting this set up are the IAM policy and role, the Route 53 domain, and the security group. To get started, let's get to the Marketplace image. Once you're logged into your Amazon console, you can just type Marketplace. And then from here, click on Discover Products, and then type in Rancher. And from here, you've got the Rancher setup. On the instructions here, if you go to Usage, there's usage instructions which have the permissions needed for the policy and role. So let's start by clicking on that. Let's copy the policy permissions. Then let's go back to our console, click on IAM. Let's create a policy. And then you'll see the JSON tab. And this is where we'll paste in that file. And what this is going to do is give your EC2 instance the permission to spin up the cluster. Okay, let's give it a useful name. And let's create the policy. Next, we need to create the role. Let's go ahead and create the role. I'm choosing AWS service, common use case EC2. Next, we'll select the policy that we just created. Next, let's give it a name. Let's call it Rancher Setup EC2 role. We'll create the role. And next, let's set up the Route 53 domain. For this example domain, I already have a domain that's pointing to Amazon. So to get that set up, I go into hosted zones. We'll create a hosted zone, put in my example domain. And that's pretty much all we need there. Next, let's go ahead and create our security group. To do that, we can click on EC2. We want to make sure that we're selected in the correct region. Then from there, we can go to security groups. We'll create a new security group. Let's add some rules. Really, all we need is port 443. If you want to SSH in, you can do port 22. Outbound rules is set to allow all. Let's go ahead and create that. Oh, let's give it a name. From here we can go ahead and go back to the marketplace and go ahead and continue with the setup. So from the marketplace, we can click continue to subscribe, continue to configuration. We want to make sure that we've selected the region that we're working in. Go ahead and continue to launch. And you can see here the default instance size, your VPC that you're using. I'm using the defaults and the default subnet. The security group, click the one that we just created. Make sure you've got an SSH key pair if you want to SSH in. Then go ahead and click launch. From there, it's creating the EC2 instance in the background. Give that a few minutes to spin up, and then we'll continue on. All right, we've given that a few minutes, so let's go ahead and continue on. We can do that by clicking on the EC2 console to see the status of our instance. And we can see that it's spun up. We'll go ahead and click on it. To be able to log in, you're going to need the instance ID, which you can just copy from here. And you're also going to need your Amazon account ID, which you can get in the top right-hand corner. And then once you're ready to log in, go ahead and click Open Address. And I've already logged in. And you can see the SUSE Rancher Setup running on the EC2 instance. And we can go ahead and click on Next, where it's going to check your permissions to make sure you're okay to do the setup. And we can see right here that something went wrong. And it's because we haven't set up the proper role on that instance. So let's go ahead and go back to the instance. Click on Action, Security, Modify IAM Role. Then we'll click on the role that we created early on. Click Update IAM Role. Then we can go back to our URL. We can reload it. And there we go. It looks like our permissions are good. So we can go ahead and click on Next. We can pick the region we want to use. I'm going to go ahead and use East 1. We can select our cluster size. I'm going to select the small 35 node, the fully qualified domain. And this will be the one that we've set up in Route 53. So I'm going to go ahead and make it rancher.testdomain.com. There we go. We have everything ready to go. And we click Next, and it's going to go ahead and start. It's going to go ahead and go through the setup process, start setting up all the resources on Amazon and get the cluster going. This is going to take about 20 minutes. So I'm going to pause this and we'll continue on when it gets finished up. All right, looks like we're ready to go. You can see the congratulations, your Rancher server is ready. You can see the URL that we set up, our one-time password. This is important when you first log in. You'll only be able to use this once. And you can also see all the Amazon resources that it created during this setup process. When we're finished, I'll also show you how to delete everything. But for now, let's go ahead and log into Rancher for the first time. Here we go with that one-time password. And we want to set a password for the admin user. Oops. There we go. We're logged into Rancher now for the first time. You can see that the cluster is still spinning up. As a first step, when we're logged into Rancher, we're going to want to create the default admin user, or create a default user and delete the default admin one. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Create the key to user. Make this user administrator. All right, now let's go ahead and log out and log in as our new user. All right, go. Now we can see our cluster resources are finished up. Let's delete that old admin user. There we go. Now we got our complete Rancher set up. And you can continue on from here with just all your normal Rancher stuff. Now let's go ahead and go back and delete this cluster that we just created. So we're back to our page right here where you can see all the resources. To clear that up, all we got to do is click the clean resources command and it'll go through Amazon and clear everything out. And this process takes about 20 minutes as well. Let's go ahead and do that. And we'll let that go and come back in a few minutes. All right, looks like everything finished back up. As you can see, all the resources have been removed. As it's going through, it starts to whittle those, remove those resources one at a time so you can kind of see it as it goes along. But there we go with the Amazon Marketplace Rancher Setup.